Okay.
Okay, good. Okay. Hello, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order, the Planning Board, Sylva, and welcome everyone. Thank you for being here today. And we will just jump right in. We just have two items of business here, two conditional use permits. And Paige or Amanda, anything we need to cover before we jump right into those?
Yep.
Okay. So I hope everyone has had a chance to look those over a little bit. We will get a presentation on each one of those. John Jelinuski will give us a rundown on those as well. So let's go right into the KRP Investments LLC. And Paige, is John going to go through his findings on this first?
Yes.
Okay.
Ready?
We're ready.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to share a screen here. And if you can't see that, let me know. I'm hoping everybody can.
Yeah, got it.
You can see that. So the first project we're looking at is a conditional use permit request. The project is Canyon Chase Senior Living Apartments. The applicant is KRP Investments Llc. Karen Perry is the managing partner. She is on the Zoom call with us, and we'll be able to take questions after my presentation if you all have any. Property location is on Chipper Curve Road and Allens Branch Road in Sylva. The PIN numbers are 7642428546 and 7642427963. There's two properties here. It's this large tract here. Here's Chipper Curve Road and Allens Branch, and there's a little smaller tract to the rear of this project, which also is part of the, it's the same ownership, same property. They're selling both properties. The property zoning is business, professional business, and residential R1. The front property here is the professional business tract. This is the residential tract here. However, as you will see in the site plan, this is not being developed. It is just part of the overall property. The ordinance section for request is going to be Article 6, which is the conditional use permit section. The district in professional business, it does allow for this type of use for apartments and multifamily residential apartments in professional business, and the applicant is requesting conditional use permit to allow that for, in this case, multifamily. Again, keep in mind that it is the intent is for senior living apartments. The application is for the construction and the management of one 4-story building containing 84 units, and the breakdown of that would be 44 one-bedroom units and 40 two-bedroom units for a total of 124 beds. This would be the elevation of that one building. That one building would be on this site. You could see that dog leg to the top, which is not being developed, but the lower tract, which is in the professional business district. That is the one structure for the residential living. Excuse me. This project will also include an indoor-outdoor sitting area, a multi-purpose room, and these letters on this building identify what some of those items are if you look over here on the legend. However, the indoor-outdoor sitting area is a standalone building right here to the rear of the large tract. Tenant storage areas are located inside the main building. Exercise room and computer center as well are in the main building. Currently, the town of Sylva allows for multifamily apartments in the professional business district only. when the Town of Sylva Board of Adjustment, Board of Commissioners issues a conditional use permit. The background is that the property for these potential apartments is located on the north side of Chipper Curve Road and Allen's Branch Road intersection. So again, where kind of that fork comes together, where Chipper Curve and Skyline is, that's kind of where the property, east property corner is, and then it goes back to Allen's Branch Road. The parcel identified as 7642428546 is in the professional business district, which we talked about, which is the large tract here. It is 4.5 acres in land area and is improved with currently with a single family dwelling. The parcel identified as 7642427963 is in the R1 district. It is just over 3/4 of an acre in land area and is vacant. The proposed project will only occupy the property within the professional business district, with the remaining property in the R1 district being planned as open space private park. The Tuckasegee Water and Sewer Authority will be managing the public utilities as far as water and potable water and sanitary sewer are concerned, and Duke Power will provide the electrical power service to the property. The Sylva Fire Department will provide fire safety services and driveway access, and 3-party encroachment agreement, which would be for the sidewalk, will be required from the NCDOT during the review and approval process for as both Chipper Curve Road and Allen's Branch Road are both state maintained roads. Site findings. Based on the submitted documents by the applicant, the requirements for the conditional use permit have been met for the use of multifamily apartments in the, that's a typo, it should say a professional business or PB district. The findings as required by Article 6 in the conditional use permits, those are the items that will be answered by you all and the town board as well, Board of Adjustment. I'll move on to the next section, which is section 38-153. And that is getting a little more into the details of the, or the requirements of what a conditional use, the conditions for a conditional use, and kind of breaks down those 10 items that staff looks at and responds to. And I'll jump into that right now. So number 1, traffic safety, congestion, and visibility. Due to the nature of this residential facility, which is senior living, normal travel trips are assumed to include public transit, visitor and employee trips, and travel by residents. Therefore, local traffic congestion should not be expected during peak hours, as the nature of this type of development would lend itself to really not a high impact like you would see in a normal multifamily apartment situation. Number 2, parking consistent with section 3877. Parking stalls required for this project will be 126, and that is based on the just the straight parking schedule out of the ordinance, which speaks to multifamily units, not the type of multifamily unit, but just multifamily umbrella, which is 1.5 parking stalls per dwelling. The submitted plan complies with this ordinance standard. So they have the 126 parking stalls that are required. Let me bring this down here to the actual site plan. Number 3, adequate vegetative and structural buffers between residential uses and all other uses. Staff's response to that is a landscape plan showing all the proposed buffering will be required at the time of permit approval and will meet all landscape buffering requirements per the Town of Sylva's ordinance. Again, we're looking at, as you do with most of these cases, you look at a conceptual plan, and staff would be, that's one of the conditions ultimately that we would be asking for, is that final site construction plans be reviewed and the ordinance be complied with before final zoning approval. Number 4, adequate space for traffic ingress and egress. The proposed driveway access on the submitted concept plan appears to meet the standards set forth in Appendix A, which is the parking and driveway design standards in your ordinance. Full compliance with these standards will be reviewed on the final site construction plans prior to the permit issuance. Number 5, adequate stormwater drainage. Stormwater drainage and erosion control measures will meet the standards set forth in Appendix E, which is the stormwater standards in the town of Sylva zoning ordinance. Full compliance with these standards will be reviewed on the final site construction plans prior to permit issuance. Number 6, adequate landscaping along public roads. All landscaping showing the proposed, all the landscape plan showing the proposed landscaping will be required at the time of final site construction plan review and prior to permit approval. All landscaping and buffering shall meet the minimum standards set forth in the town's zoning ordinance. Again, we're looking at, I just want to remind you, we're looking at a conceptual plan here. A pretty good one. It does show, if you zoom in on your plans that you've been sent to you, there is buffering shown, the actual setback lines for that. We just don't have a detailed landscape plan at this point, and that's usually required at final site review. Number 7, that signs consistent with Article 4 are designed, placed, illuminated, and landscaped in harmony with the adjoining properties. And of course, any signage erected shall be in accordance with the town sign regulations. Number 8, that outside lighting is screened, turned off, or directed away from residential neighborhoods. Structure lighting per NC building code will be required. So obviously any building lighting that's required per the state building code would be on the building. The applicant has not indicated lighting on the submitted concept plan. However, due to the nature of this project, which is senior living, lighting should be encouraged for all walkways, parking areas, and community areas, which is the outdoor seating areas and picnic areas, open space, park areas, etc. Lighting should be designed to be downcast with no halo effect and not directed toward any public right-of-way or adjacent properties. Number 9, that commercial machinery or activities producing noise are conducted within the confines of an enclosed building. That doesn't apply in this case. Number 10, that the design of the proposed building and its use shall be consistent with the surrounding character of the neighborhood and purposes of the zoning district. The surrounding neighborhood consists of single-family detached homes, commercial businesses, professional and community services. The proposed structure and accessory buildings are professionally designed. As you can see on the concept plans, not only with the site plan, but with the architectural plan going forward. We can also talk a little bit about the floor plans if you would like. We do have floor plans for all 4 floors in this case, and for the an enlargement of a floor plan of an individual the lobby areas, the entries, and the public spaces in the building. And then also what the typical unit would look like for, 1-bedroom apartments, and also the 2-bedroom apartments as well. The recommendation from staff is that all final site construction plans be reviewed for full compliance of the town of Sylva zoning ordinance, that a 5-foot sidewalk be constructed along Chipper Curve Road and Skyline Drive area, which would be here. And connected to the proposed interior on-site sidewalk network. So not only the sidewalk here, but some form or fashion of it getting back and tied to the building, whether it be through the property or along the side of the road here. Number 3, conditions to ensure safety for residents and visitors, provide site lighting for parking areas, pedestrian walkways, and public spaces. Lighting should be designed to be downcast, no halo effect, and not directed toward public rights of way or adjacent properties. And number 4, that the applicant coordinate with the NCDOT for a driveway access permit and 3-party encroachment agreement. In addition, I've been talking to the applicant on this, and she has reached out to Jackson County Transit, and Norma Taylor there, and Karen can speak to this a little bit more, have agreed upon kind of tentative plan moving forward if this were to be approved and get underway, that this would be a stop on their routes as part of their trolley service throughout town. So that ball is already rolling. So hopefully, if all goes well, that would be a great addition to the community. And then obviously reaching out to the services that are already offered here would be a big get. So that's my staff report in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions about my review or the ordinance items. And again, the applicant is online here to discuss anything in detail that I have not been able to touch upon.
Okay, thank you, John. Does anyone have questions? Yes, Jeff?
Yes, thank you. John, I wonder if you could refresh my memory, go back to the diagrams of the structures where the elevators are and then of course stairwells for emergency access or egress. I missed it in the.
So on the floor plan,
Yeah, there
so
you go.
the blow up of it is going to be these two floor plans. So you're going to have pretty much in the lobby, there's the front door. Here's the covered drive, which is right here, basically in the middle of the front of the building. And the elevators, this is the blow up of the center part of the building. So you're going to have the elevator access in the center part, pretty much the public space here.
Okay.
And then if you dig a little deeper, there's going to be stairwells obviously on the ends, and then also
Oh, I see them now. Okay.
yeah.
Right.
So there's going to be stairway accesses obviously on the end, and then elevators in the center of the building here.
Thank you.
John, I had a question. I noticed this is 4 stories. A lot of the ones we've looked at in the past are 3 stories, but do you know what the height of the building is?
Yeah, so, well, the actual height, I mean, you're going to be, the rule of thumb is going to be 10 feet per floor. And then of course you have your roof line that is going to be a little bit higher. Typically, when we measure a building height, it doesn't go to the ridge. It's going to go from the finished grade to the mean of the slope of the roof. So it's basically from the finished grade to about that midpoint of the roof line is really what we call the building height. In the professional business district, you can go, believe it or not, up to 80 feet tall. So this obviously is well below what that standard would be for a mixed-use plan, residential plan development like this.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, John, I may have missed it, but is there a buffer on the east side of the property? It looked like there was on the drawing, but maybe there's not one required in writing. Is that?
Well, there would be a landscape buffer required here.
Okay.
Yes. And we are, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We are working with the town on refining the parking schedule a little bit because it is, I don't want to say it's antiquated, but it is a little bit dated. If you look at that parking schedule, it is very narrow with the uses and the parking that's required and the uses that are there. And I've been talking to Paige about it. We want to bring it back to you at some point and refine that and detail it a little bit better, because this use obviously is going to be a little different than a typical workforce housing or multifamily type of building. The thought process with that is it more than likely will not have the residents having a lot of parking here because of the nature of what this will be. So we kind of wanted to parse that out a little bit and define what multifamily whether it be straight multifamily, would it be multifamily rentals, whether it be senior living, and kind of break that down a little bit. Not only that, but in other parts of the town, when we speak to other types of uses that are either high impact or low impact, instead of lumping them all together, kind of breaking that out a little bit so it makes more sense. And we do have, with our other ordinances around the county, that has been looked at a little bit closer, so we could probably use that more of a template and work with you all on that in the near future. And in saying that, in the future, before this, right now that they meet those parking requirements, but in the future, this may get pared down from what you're seeing because of the changes that may be forthcoming with some ordinance amendments.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
John, I know that there's proposed or there's planned to have a sidewalk going along Skyline Drive eventually. Is that on this side of it, of Skyline Drive, or is that going to be on the other side of Skyline Drive?
It would end at the intersection of Skyline Drive and Chipper Curve,
Okay,
right in front of this location, but on the Skyline Drive side.
okay. So if you were to build a sidewalk on the other side, it would probably, like, to connect that to the new sidewalk, you would probably want to be looking at a crosswalk there, I would think.
Yes and no. Keep in mind that's, it's going to be DOT's jurisdiction.
Mhm.
If you are familiar with this road and this intersection, and Ben definitely is
Right.
riding his bike, it does not necessarily lend itself to a safe crosswalk
Mhm.
kind of fixture. The idea of the sidewalk requirement in the town's ordinance is basically connecting the links of the properties that are adjacent to each other, not necessarily directly across the street. It is ultimately, but more of safe, movement. So in other words, this wouldn't necessarily be ideal for a crosswalk anywhere along here to get across Skyline Drive, but
Mhm.
perhaps at a major intersection down at Hospital Road or down across from Community Services or Skyline Services rather, or closer into town, where there's more of a major intersection where the traffic movement through that intersection lends itself to a crosswalk. DOT is, the design speed of this road and just the safety concerns that I'm sure would come up. I don't know that they would, there's no stopping movements here. There's no lights. So it would not make sense to put a crosswalk in the middle of Skyline Drive here.
Mhm.
I'll
Yeah,
back you
that
up
was
on
gonna
that
be
one,
my
John.
point, is that I didn't think it would be a great place for a
Right.
crosswalk, and actually, like, the traffic of people coming out of here, they would probably be going on to Skyland, and it's not a very safe intersection as it lies now.
You're
But I'm
correct.
not sure that there's anything they could do design-wise that would improve that.
No, and of course, we're at the mercy of DOT when it comes
Right.
to something like that. So again, the intent really is to link the adjacent properties on the same side of the road together with a sidewalk, not necessarily across the street. So of course, we try to connect those missing links over time, and we've done a pretty good job as development and redevelopment have happened in the town, mostly on the main drags like 107 and 23. But
Mhm.
this is in obviously the town limits, and it is in a professional business district, and not a whole lot has been developed over the years out here. So this would be kind of one of the first properties to see a link of sidewalk, I guess.
Mhm. It would be a floating sidewalk, just like a kind of standalone little piece of sidewalk for quite a while, probably.
It would be, presumably, sometimes these things trigger more development.
Yeah,
And we've seen that. So they're not building land anymore. So it's, the property right next door to this is vacant. So,
Yeah.
we might see something happen in the near future there.
yeah, that would be good. And then as far as connecting the interior sidewalks to that sidewalk along Chipper Curve Road, it seems like that it would be necessary for residents to cross the main egress, well, the driveway here, in order to get to the sidewalk.
Yes. Yeah, the
So,
reason that we look for that is we don't want people going cross country. We want safe movement. So if somebody's going to take off on their own, obviously on site and adjacent to the right of way, you'd want the safe movement of folks. Obviously on site, it's kind of more of a private movement thing. There would be presumably a sidewalk or a crosswalk identified across their driveway to get to the public sidewalk up front. And again, that's more just safety factors we're trying to build into the site.
thank you.
Any other questions for John?
Got one. So the back parcel being R1, since that doesn't allow multifamily housing, is there a chance that this would get there's probably a chance that this would get rezoned into one parcel at some point. What is the method to protect or buffer from the houses behind it?
Well, right now it's not, it can remain as a separate tract. It doesn't have to be part of this property because they're not planning on developing it. And it's, if you're familiar with the property, this back portion, let me get here, this back portion is actually elevated above this down here. There's no plans right now currently to do anything up here. Karen may be wanting to jump in and say something about that, but right now they're two separate parcels. Technically, they don't have to rezone this. They could leave it as R1. And as a matter of fact, for that matter, it could be cut off in the future for single family residential development as far as that goes. But there's nothing in the ordinance that requires that they rezone that. And then of course, that's more of a legislative process where that would come to the commissioners for a map amendment to make that part of the professional business district.
Okay, that answers my question.
Yeah, it's not really necessary, but if it's, something the town wants to look at, that's certainly something they could pursue.
All right. Any other questions? Oh, sure, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, a couple. Actually, just a suggestion on that upper lot, that north end lot could in the future be some kind of either walking or recreational kind of area for the residents.
Yeah, in my staff report, I allude to that. I mean, I can easily see that being that's the sitting area complex right there.
Right.
Outdoor
Right.
sitting area is to do maybe just a walking loop
Mm-hmm.
for the residents to where they can get their exercise.
Yeah.
Multi-purpose field. If somebody wants to walk out there and sit in the grass or whatever, I can easily see that happening by default.
Yeah.
There's no hard design on the concept plan, but I think that's probably an easy get, and it seems to be a reasonable condition that you may want to offer up as part of the approval.
My other question is, I assume all the abutters know about this plan. Have they weighed in on any comments or feedback or suggestions?
I'm sorry, the neighbors?
The abutters, the surrounding abutters, do they have is there an avenue for their input?
There is.
The letters were mailed today to those property owners. The legislative rule is 10 to 25 days prior to the public hearing, which is April the 1st. So those letters are going out now.
Oh, so we'll hear from them in April. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just to kind of jump in here for those of you newer to the board, the planning board in Sylva is advisory in nature. So the actual adjustment board is the town board. So we will make a recommendation, and then I believe between there, before the town board would make a decision, a public hearing would be. Is that correct, Paige?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so people would have a chance to have their input.
Yeah, so the actual quasi judicial hearing happens at the town board level. That's where people, property owners with standing, basically in a butter or a property that would be directly affected by this development, they'd be a party to that hearing. and they could offer up evidence or bring their own witnesses if they wished, if they did not agree with or they had issues with the project.
All right. Any other questions for John?
Is there,
Okay.
John, this is Alan Brown. Is there a ordinance? Do we have anything about where the location of that building has to be fronting like the road or in the parking in the back? Is that anywhere in our, I've not read our ordinances or our development code, or is that just kind of their preference of putting that building there?
Yeah, in all of the districts, we don't have a maximum setback. So it's going to be,
Okay.
the minimum setback is the building setback, and that is specific to the frontage, where it would front a major road, and
Right.
side and rear. And so anywhere in that box, they could put their building. And the
Okay.
same thing with the parking.
Okay. 10-4. Thank you, sir.
My understanding is that if the parking is in the back, it's kind of more walking oriented a lot of the time. And then if the parking is in the front, it's more auto oriented, like to get from the buildings to the road. Obviously, Allen's Branch Road is not a great walking road though. But yeah, one of the things that stuck out to me about this plan is that the parking is in the back. So it's a little bit less auto oriented.
Okay, any other questions? And Paige, is it Karen that we have as a representative for?
Yes, Karen Perry's on here.
Okay, Karen, do you have any additional statements or comments you'd like to make about the project?
No, as always, John does an incredible job, and just appreciate your consideration and being back with you all. Good to see you again, Paige.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. If there is no further questioning or discussion to take place, if the way we need to proceed with this, there are 4 questions that the zoning board must answer by majority vote and find positive on those. If those 4 are answered positively by the board, then it will move forward to the Town of Sylva Adjustment Board as a recommendation from there. So if you have on your sheets there, under staff findings there, C is the first one of those. And now for each one of these, we have to vote on these individually. So we'll need a motion and a second for each one. So I'll read it and then we can have discussion. Okay, the first is the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and development according to the plan as submitted and approved. Any discussion on that matter? Okay, if no discussion, could I entertain a motion to accept that one?
I move to accept that.
Okay, and do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and we have a motion and a second. All those in favor. Now, Amanda, do you need to do this by roll call?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Rose,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
and Boyd.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. On to number 2. The use meets all required conditions and specifications. Okay, any questions, concerns, discussion on that one? If none, can I entertain a motion for that?
This is Rose. I'll make a
I'll make a
motion.
motion. I'll second Rose's motion.
I beat you, Alan.
You did, Rose. You were quick. Quick.
It's the Zoom lag there. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All of those, and well, I'll let Amanda do the roll call.
Rose,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes. Okay. Number 3, the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or in the alternative, the use is a public necessity. Okay. Questions, comments, discussion on that?
I do have a quick question. I mean,
Okay.
how can we comfortably say that's so? I mean, not hearing from abutters and not knowing the real estate market in that immediate vicinity. I mean, I don't see any reason why it would, but at the same time, I feel funny saying, oh, no, it won't.
So in the quasi-judicial, you're not a quasi-judicial hearing here, but normally when you do have a quasi-judicial hearing, like the Board of Adjustment will have, substantial expert testimony with witnesses, experts in the field would have to testify to that. And that's where the Board of Adjustment would weigh that as part of either, what's being submitted by staff, by the applicant, and anybody that would be opposing the project. They would weigh that. Usually in a quasi-judicial, you have, especially if it's going to be, there's going to be some adjoiners that are opposed to the project. You have attorneys involved, you have expert witnesses on both sides that speak to that. In tonight, you haven't heard that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's typically based on expert witness testimony that you would make a decision based on that.
And like we said earlier, there will be a public hearing, so people will have a chance to put their opinions in and their concerns at that time too, before the actual decisions made by the adjustment board. I believe it's basically asking, based on the plans we have now, is this the case? So.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Was that path that someone mentioned on the back proposed as a condition?
I had brought it up as a potential condition by the council if they felt that that was a reasonable condition to add that as part of the staff conditions, if they felt it necessary.
Okay.
So once we go through these 4 questions, if we get through those, then we can make a motion and point out any conditions we might want to consider passing along with the recommendations. Okay, any other discussion on number 3 there? Okay, if none, can I entertain a motion for that?
I move to accept that point.
Okay. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. And Amanda, if you'll call roll.
Rose,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes. Okay, on to the final question. Okay. The location and character of the proposed use will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the development of the town and its environs. Okay. Thoughts, discussion, questions on that point?
Well, there's not a lot of harmony in that area right now.
That's true.
As far as that goes.
It
But
is
I
a
know
mixed-
like in the future, we're correct me if I'm wrong, but in the future, we're envisioning this Skyline corridor as like a mixed use corridor that would include some residential and business and government things. So I think that would fit in pretty well with that. And also help serve our future goal of creating a little bit more density for housing development. That's just my comment.
Okay, anything else? Not me. Okay, if no further comments or questions, can I entertain a motion for that one?
May
Make a motion.
Sorry, can I make one more comment?
Sure.
Just thinking about too, like the future vision of that area, and also for the town itself in general, if we're looking to create more walkable development, I would suggest maybe moving the ingress or egress to the north or northwest side of the building instead, just so that there would be more access to the main corridor, walkways and things like that. That's just a thought. I would not put it as a condition for it.
State that one more time. Move the, what you were considering moving.
Well, the current ingress and egress is, yeah, there. So like moving it to the other side of the building.
Here?
If residents
Oh,
wanted to get to, the sidewalk and access other things in the neighborhood for, if in the future it's connected by sidewalks, crosswalks, and all sorts of fun stuff like that.
Okay.
It might be more, that purpose may be better served to have the ingress and egress on the other side of the building.
Well, one of the issues, Melissa, that we have on this particular site is this line right here is the railroad right of way, believe it or not. And no structures can be in that right of way technically. So in order to flip this over here, you remember you got to have some buffers. You got to have the width of that driveway, and then obviously you'd be set back from that driveway to the building, which forces this building this way. Not a bad thought. And then the other thing is that this is a very narrow road, to extending that movement all the way up Allen's Branch before, and around the building. Again, not probably the end of the world, but you're traveling a little bit further down this narrow road to get to this building versus right off of Chipper Curve. So there's a little bit of moving parts right there that it kind of makes sense where it's at right now because of the site conditions.
Yeah, thank you. I hadn't considered the railroad setback aspect.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? If not, could I entertain a motion for number 4?
So moved.
Okay, and a
I'll
second?
second it.
Okay. All right, Amanda, if you'll do the roll call, please.
Rose,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes. Okay, so we have passed the 4 questions to move forward with that. Now, Paige, you mentioned about the conditions there. Am I correct in that we need to make a motion to present this, or does that take care of it, approving the 4 questions we just did?
I think that it takes care of the ones that John has listed in the staff report.
Okay. And if everyone wants to look at those recommended conditions there, or recommendations from John in his staff report there, there's 4 of them. All final site construction plans be reviewed for full compliance with the town of Sylva zoning ordinance. A 5-foot wide sidewalk be constructed along Chipper Curve Road, Skyline Drive, and connected to the proposed interior on-site sidewalk network. Third was to ensure safety for residents and visitors, provide site lighting for the parking areas, pedestrian walkways, and public spaces. Lighting should be designed to be downcast, no halo effect, and not directed toward the public right-of-way or adjacent properties. And fourth, that the applicant coordinate with the NCDOT for a driveway access permit and 3-party encroachment agreement. Are there any other conditions we might want to consider adding in those as to those recommendations? Oh, Jeffrey.
Yes, not a condition, but a recommendation that the applicant and developer explore that north parcel as potential recreational use, maybe even pedestrian access to that road. For, I don't know, maybe a little garden. I don't know how old, what the age limit of these people will be, but some of them may want to have a little garden or a little walkway, or, some way to use that piece to enhance the living, conditions of the residents.
That makes sense, and would also help buffer seeing that the next level back are single family residential houses too. So.
Yeah.
Wait, I've got a question.
Okay.
Karen, I assume you guys, it makes no sense to build, multifamily housing without making sure broadband access is there. Is that something you guys look into on the front end before picking sites?
Yeah, a lot of times that's an amenity included as well with the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency process.
Okay, so is this LIHTC or what?
It is.
Okay, super. And John, is that something in the future we can make a condition that, if we're doing, we look at water, sewer, and everything else, can we make sure broadband's part of that?
Yeah, I don't see an issue with that at all.
Russ, would you think we would like to make that a recommendation?
Well, I think, Boyd, it's kind of a part of Karen's approval process at the state.
Okay.
That it's kind of built into their permitting. Not necessarily a requirement at the local level, but just the nature of what they're proposing and what they're trying to get approved at a different level. It certainly helps with their approval process for other agencies to have as much as possible.
Yeah, it's included in the amenities that would be offered.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other thoughts? Okay, so we have the 4 recommendations from John. Do we want to add that other, explore keeping the back parcel for recreation use, natural area, something like that? Or
I agree. We do want to preserve green space within the town too. So,
Okay,
yeah, I think it's a good recommendation.
okay.
Uh, may I comment
Uh-huh,
just before we go too far down this? While we love that idea and want definitely, my ears perked up as well. I was like, oh, garden.
yeah,
One concern that we would have is with our investors and equity partners, particularly if there is additional consideration to open up for public access, and right away would be bringing people, non-residents, into the acreage owned by a private partnership, if that makes sense. So
okay,
not only would our risk and liability exposures be increased, it would be something that would require our investors' approvals. So while it's a wonderful idea, and it would be something we would want to be able to only have access to for our residents, if that makes sense.
Right.
It would be awesome to make it like a community garden, or I mean, our imaginations, and it's certainly something we would love to be a part of. However, there's more than us to consider
sure.
in today's environment. So while it's something that we definitely would want to entertain, please do keep in mind that there's other parties involved, that if it's a part of the condition, I'm not certain that I can get a full yes. Does that make sense?
I think the thought is to keep it as a natural area.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
Enjoyed by the residents in the development, not the neighborhood.
Yeah,
Well, one of the things is I thought I heard sidewalk access, and, and that seemed to make it more public accessible. And that's one of the things. Open space, green space. Absolutely. We love it and all for it. And that's one of the reasons we're excited about getting that extra parcel there, as well as to keep the green space in the footprint available.
Right.
yeah, I'd be totally fine with having that be private only. It
Mhm.
seems like it would be pretty prohibitive to allow any public access along that other road or through the parking area. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like we're all on the same page. Awesome.
anything further? Any other questions? Okay, so if not, having approved those four, that is all that's necessary to move that as a recommendation to the board. Is that correct? Amanda or Paige? Okay. Okay. So Karen, thank you, and good luck with that. I hope all the approvals and everything go well for you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
And let's move on to the conditional use permit for the Southern Properties and Development. And John, I believe you have a presentation for that one.
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Some of you on the planning board have seen this 2 other times. This is the third go at it for this particular project. This is the Bluffs, a multifamily apartments project. The applicant is Southern Properties and Development LLC. The property location is on Savannah Drive, PIN number 7631661393. This is the west end of Savannah Drive. Harold's Grocery Store is right here, and Savannah Drive going up and around back to town, Yellowbird Branch being here. The highlighted parcel in yellow is where the site is. The property zoning is business 2, ETJ. This is in the ETJ district of the town. Excuse me just a second. And again, the articles for the conditional use permit, Article 6 of the zoning ordinance. The description of request is that the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow multifamily residential development in the Business 2 ETJ. The application is for the construction and management of three-story buildings consisting of or containing 72 units, 150 bedrooms total, and a community area that includes a clubhouse, multi-purpose room, covered picnic area, playground, covered patio area, and gazebo. Currently, the town of Sylva allows multifamily apartments in the B2 district only when a conditional use permit is issued by the town board of adjustment. So you have the three buildings here, the community building with the playground and outdoor picnic area as well. And then this over here would be the gazebo on the far end of the property here. The elevations of the, I don't have any elevations of this particular parcel. We do have the floor plans, but they are three-story buildings, 1, 2, and 3, and they are of typical, they're all pretty typical. These two being similar, a little bit smaller one here. But you can, if you had time to look at your staff report in your package, you may have seen these plans and also the typical unit layout for each one of those bedrooms. The background is the property for these potential apartments is located on the south and west sides of Savannah Drive, approximately 1,120 feet south of the intersection with 23, Business 23, so just south of that. The area of this vacant property is 6.83 total acres, and the proposed apartment complex would be developed on the entire tract. So this whole property, you may remember that there is an upper tier here and a lower tier down here, and the development would take all of that 6.83 acres. Public utilities will be provided by Tuckasegee Water and Sewer Authority for water and sanitary sewer, and Duke Power for power. This property will be served by the Sylva Fire Department. Driveway access and three-party encroachment for the sidewalk will be required from the NCDOT during their review and approval process, as Savannah Drive is a state road. So the same scenario, there would be a sidewalk requirement all along Savannah Drive here, along the property frontage. And that would be on the aerial from this property corner along the frontage to that property corner. Site findings, moving down, again, section 38-152 is procedures for the public hearing and for the standards for the conditional use permit. I'll jump ahead, being as that's your review. Section 38-153, which is the ordinance standards that I can respond to in reviewing the conceptual plan and applying the ordinance to it. Number 1, traffic safety, congestion, and visibility. Other than normal travel associated with this multifamily apartment complex, traffic congestion should be expected during peak hours. However, the intersection of Savannah Drive and US Highway Business 23, which is West Main Street, is a signalized intersection. So again, keep in mind that the main driveway would be on the lower end of the project right here, the ingress egress, which would be in this location on Savannah. And then of course, a hop, skip, and a jump to the signalized intersection of the major intersection there of Savannah and 23. Number 2, parking consistent with section 3877. The parking stalls required for this project would be 108. The submitted plans indicate that there will be 133 proposed parking stalls. So obviously the top tier and the bottom tier having more than enough parking to satisfy the residents and visitors for this project. Number 3, adequate vegetative and or structural buffers between residential uses and all other uses. A landscape plan showing the proposed buffering will be required at the time of permit. approval and will meet all landscape buffering requirements for the town of Sylva's ordinance. You can see again on this proposed concept, there is a buffer shown already. That would be required to be vegetated. The property currently does have some natural vegetation along that those property lines, those adjacent property lines. Some of that would be maintained presumably, and if not, it would be replanted with the town of Sylva's requirements for buffering. Number 4, adequate space for traffic ingress egress. Proposed driveways and alleys on the submitted concept plan appear to meet the standards set forth in Appendix A. Remember, that's the parking and driveway standard design standards for the town. Full compliance with these standards will be reviewed on a dimension site plan prior to permit issuance. Again, let me stop right there real quickly. You all may not be aware of this, but what happens is in something like this, and with the project you just reviewed, we're looking at concept plans here. By the end of a project, when it's submitted back to us for full compliance, it is a full site construction plans with grading, landscape buffering, all the ordinance requirements, all the stormwater requirements are on there. So it's usually a pretty big set of plans, something like this, that when you roll it out, it's got probably a dozen sheets at least that you're reviewing and applying the ordinance to, and those are the actual detailed construction plans with the details and specifications that go with it. So they are detailed, and when I say things like it will be reviewed at the time of final site construction plans and prior to permit issuance, you all or the town board of adjustment would be presumably approving the conditional use permit, but we as staff would finalize that with a zoning permit prior to commencement of construction or breaking ground. So just want to make you aware of that this is basically the first step of the process, but there is some more detailed review that happens beyond that. Number 4, adequate space for traffic ingress egress. Again, the proposed driveways do appear to meet those standards, which is the width of the alleys and the driveway on and off the property. Number 5, adequate stormwater drainage. Stormwater drainage and erosion control measures will meet the standards set forth in Appendix E of the town's zoning ordinance, which is the stormwater and erosion standards. Full compliance with these standards will be reviewed at final site construction plans prior to permit issuance. Number 6, adequate landscaping along all public roads. Landscape plan showing the proposed landscaping will be required at the time of final site construction plan review and prior to permit approval. All landscaping and buffering shall meet the minimum requirements per the town of Sylva's ordinance. So again, street trees along the frontage and then landscape buffering on the adjacent and butters. Also, the ordinance does call for interior plantings, so around the parking areas and buffering from the parking from the public right-of-way is required in that ordinance. So all those items would be on that landscape plan, and we would be looking for that on the final plan for review. Number 7, that signs consistent with Article 4 are designed, placed, illuminated, and landscaped in harmony with the adjoining properties. Again, any signage erected shall be in accordance with the town of Sylva's sign regulations. Number 8, that outside lighting is screened, turned off, or directed away from residential neighborhoods. Structure lighting per the NC building code will be required, again, around the buildings for ingress and egress of the residential spaces, and the habitable spaces would be required by state building code. The applicant has not indicated lighting on the submitted concept plan. However, due to the nature of this project, multifamily apartment complex, lighting should be encouraged for all walkways, parking areas, and community areas, which would include the playground, clubhouse, picnic area, etc. Lighting should be designed to be downcast, no halo effect, not directed toward the public rights of way or adjacent properties. Number 9, that commercial machinery and activities producing noise are conducted within the confines of an enclosed building. Again, that does not apply in this case, it's residential use. Number 10, that the design of the proposed building and its use shall be consistent with the surrounding character of the neighborhood of the neighborhood and the purposes of the zoning district. The surrounding neighborhood consists of single-family detached homes and multifamily residential units. Businesses providing household and daily life essentials and services are located nearby at the intersection of West Main Street and Savannah Drive, which is just over 1,100 feet away. The proposed residential structures and accessory buildings are professionally designed. Again, you have a peppering of single-family detached homes here. You do have multifamily here, and then also behind the property, multifamily units here, and then up on this ridge as well. Businesses all towards the intersection, convenience store, multifamily, professional offices, obviously Harold's Grocery Store and Plaza. So it is a mix of different uses in that neighborhood. The recommendation from staff is that all final site construction plans be reviewed for full compliance of the Town of Sylva zoning ordinance, that a 5-foot sidewalk be constructed along Savannah Drive and connected to the proposed interior sidewalk network. So sidewalk along Savannah Drive, and then a sidewalk usually adjacent to the driveway and connecting to any interior sidewalk network that is tying that development on site together. Number 3 there, to ensure the safety of residents and visitors, provide site lighting for parking areas, pedestrian walkways, and public spaces. Lighting should be designed to be downcast, no halo effect, and not directed toward public rights of way or adjacent properties. And number 4, that the developer coordinate with the NCDOT for driveway access permit and 3-party encroachment agreement, which would be the sidewalk. We do have a representative for the applicant online, and they could answer specific questions, and I'm happy to answer any review questions or ordinance related questions you may have.
Any questions for John?
Besides the ingress and egress location, has there been any other changes to this since we looked at it last year?
No, it's basically the same exact layout as it was before. You may remember the driveway initially, and at that time we were recommending in staff that it be moved where it currently shown right here, which they did agree to do. But the previous rendition of this, it had the driveway more in the center of the property here and going up. And I think it may have broken off. I can't remember. I think it broke off and went down here as well. But yeah, it makes much more sense to be down here out of the S curve and closer to the main intersection of 23 and Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
John, I may have missed it, but is this also a tax credit project? It is,
It would
isn't it?
be, yes, same exact process as the last two. As you know, it's very competitive, and it is workforce housing, and they go through that process with the state to get those credits.
Okay.
Any other questions for John? Okay, and I'm sorry, who is the representative for the Bluffs here?
Honeycutt.
That's me, Tom Honeycutt.
Hello, Tom. Sorry about that. Okay.
That's all right.
Are there any additional comments or anything you'd like to make about the
No,
project?
I think John's done a good job presenting it.
Okay. Any questions for Tom? Okay, if there are none, let's move on to the 4 questions we need. As soon as I find the right page. Okay, first one is the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and development according to the plan as submitted and approved. Any thoughts, questions, concerns about that point? Okay. Oh, yes, Jeffrey.
Yeah, just a quick question, and if this anticipated increased traffic flow up Savannah over to River Road and the back way, I mean, as opposed to using the signaled intersection, any anticipated increase of that avenue?
Again, this is a state road, state maintained road, and the DOT would have jurisdiction over that. So when a driveway access permit is submitted to them for review, they take all that into account, the trips that would be proposed on and off this site, and if there would be any mitigation that would be required. In my experience, based on just going off of what we've done in the recent past, and Savannah Drive being adequate for this type of development, my guess would be they would not require any mitigation efforts. And when I say mitigation, I mean widening the road in that area, doing a turn lane or a left-hand turn lane, that type of thing. Usually that's not, the roads as they are designed in, especially Savannah Drive, is adequate for it appears to be adequate for what it serves. And, it's based on a number of different things. The uses around the design speed, et cetera. And it's, again, we have not heard anything to the contrary on that. So, again, that would have to be more of an expert witness testimony situation if there were to be an opposing party that was suggesting otherwise.
Okay. Anyone else have questions or comments? If none, may I entertain a motion for number 1 there?
This is Rose. I'll make that motion.
Okay. And do we have a second?
Okay.
Okay. And Amanda, if you will do a roll call.
Rose,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes. Okay, on to number 2. The use meets all required conditions and specifications. Thoughts or discussion on that point? Okay, if none, entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Okay, a second. Okay,
Second.
Alan there. Okay, roll call for that, please, Amanda.
Rose,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes. Okay, number 3, the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or in the alternative, the use is a public necessity. Discussions, questions, comments on that?
Do we have a definition of public necessity? Just out of curiosity.
I do not know.
I mean, I would argue that affordable housing is, but
There's not a definition for that in the town of Sylva's ordinance. You probably have to go back to the planning dictionary.
Also, these stipulations come from the state for conditional use permits. So I don't know if, I'll look into that.
Good question there. So, okay. Anyone else? If not, can we have a motion for that? Number 3.
so moved.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. And Amanda, or if you'll roll call.
Rose,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes. Okay, almost here, all right, to the end here. The location and character of the proposed use will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the development of the town and its environs. Discussion on that? Okay, if none, may we have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay. Okay, and Amanda, if you'll roll call, please.
Rose,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes. Okay. Were there any other conditions we wanted or recommendations we wanted to add to send that to the board? Other than the ones John has recommended. Okay, if not, then I believe that is it. Is there anything else, Paige or Amanda?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you, John, and thank you, Karen, and
You're welcome.
Tom
See
as
you
well.
all.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
all
you
for
all.
doing an extra planning board meeting this month. We appreciate it.
Yes, we'll see you again soon, hopefully.
Boyd, you'll need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Do we need to roll call for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Rose,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Funny
everyone.
If y'all just voted
Thank
not
you.
to end the meeting, that would have been great.
I know, I thought about it just to be mean. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.